All right. All right. I was in a meeting recently and I was sharing on prayer, and it struck me that while we might have different definitions of prayer, different definitions to faith, to the gospel, righteousness, different. All right. There's something fundamental and key that we miss out on. And it's something that Jesus said to the Samaritan woman in John 4. He says, we worship who we know. All right. We worship who we know. All right. And it was apparent that they didn't know who they were worshiping, yet they were worshiping. All right. It doesn't mean that, God didn't accept their worship, or God didn't love them because they didn't worship Him because they knew Him much, or they knew Him fully. All right. The point is that when we do not know who we are worshiping, all right, we tend to experiment, and like the um, proverbial boxer, shadow box. We are. Someone said if we don't know what we are hitting, all right, we'll miss it every time and we won't know. All right, if we keep hitting and punching the air, we're not punching at anything definite. All right, we'll keep missing every time, and we'll not know we are missing every time. That kind of thing. So it's important and it's pertinent that, see, if I know that my life is a relationship with God and my fellow brothers and sisters who are a part of God in themselves, all right, it means that I need to get to know who this God is. For example, a lot of us pray, a lot of us pray, a lot of us pray, and a lot of us do not know who we are praying to, you know. And I speak about this with a lot of humility and with a lot of passion, because I mean, so many of us are married, so many of us have boyfriends, girlfriends, we have friends, um, we have relationships on a daily basis, and imagine communicating with someone and you didn't know the person. All right, what would you know is acceptable? What would you know is a boundary you're not supposed to cross? It can't make for effective communication when we do not know who we are communicating with. All right, so it's very important that we know who we are communicating with. For example, I have a wife, and I never know her, or I never knew her. I don't know her. It's sad. She becomes a stranger. I won't know when to speak. I won't know when to act. I won't know when to, it just, I'm going to be afraid of her when I should not um, be. I'm going to doubt her when I shouldn't. There's just going to be a lot of, you understand from my face, a lot of hassles and toil and burden. The communication now becomes a burden, and which is what prayer is for many of us, because we don't know who we are praying to, we don't know who we are talking to. We just close our eyes, and sometimes our minds, are thinking about so many things. We are hungry most times, and we feel that we have to pray. I have to pray, and when we should be eating, we think that, we are going to offend God if we didn't pray at this time. We think that we are going to offend Him if we didn't pray for 50 minutes, if we didn't pray for 3 hours, if we didn't pray, if we didn't speak in tongues. You feel that, boils down to the fact that we do not know who we are praying to. All right, if we are praying to this God whom we say is love, we would know that sometimes it's not, a medium is not important, all right, as much as you are important. Some of us have kids. I was opportune to be close to one of my friend's kids recently, and the boy cannot talk. The boy cannot talk. He's just, sometimes he's just there in my arms. He's just cooing and wow, he will cry and I play with him, try to calm him down, and he's back to laughing, and sometimes just being in his presence or makes me happy. And him also sometimes he begins to crawl and he comes and he's like and I carry him, and he's happy, he loves me and I love him, and that's it. you know he I can't hear what he's thinking, but from I know what I can't hear what he's saying because sometimes he doesn't talk, and sometimes when he talks it's cool kaka. There's a cry, there's a way he used to cry, in and and when I hear in, I know this guy is not happy, and I already know what he's thinking. you know in prayer, it's not prayer doesn't have an end. Prayer is not a time. Prayer is not a dimension. Prayer is not an activity. Prayer is communication, we say. And communication doesn't have barriers. All right? Especially when we understand that it's in love. All right? It means that talking about my day is communication. Being angry with my brother is communication. Being, in the French you call it triste, that's angry. Yeah, triste is sad. En colère is angry. All right, being en colère or being triste is communication. All right, it's beyond what we say here. It's in what we think, what we see, what we smell. What we hear. What we touch. Who we are with. It's in life generally, communication. Every waking moment of my life is prayer, and God responds to me in love, and I respond to him in love, and we are just one and intimate, and he communicates his thoughts to my heart and I communicate my thoughts to his heart, and we argue sometimes because I struggle with how much of his love I feel in my heart, and I feel that it shouldn't be so. He shouldn't love me this much. He should love me far less than, because I feel sometimes I do not deserve this love. I feel that he should punish me sometimes for acting, doing, speaking, thinking wrong, and he's like, he kisses me, he kisses my forehead, he embraces me, he hugs me, and he is so intimate with me, and he gives me sometimes a good breath, a good fragrance to inhale, and all, and he's given me thoughts to think. He's educated my mind, through school, through interactions with people, and I'm just getting a better view every time of who I am, who people are, what his love is for me, what his love is towards me, what his love is towards my neighbor, towards my family, how that he has blessed me and he has made all things available to me. Prayer is that kind of life. Prayer is life. All right, that's why 2 Corinthians 5 would say that we should pray without ceasing. In other words, it means that prayer doesn't have an end. Prayer doesn't have a stop. If it was about a certain number of hours, how many hours are enough to pray? How many hours are enough to talk? All right, if I'm doing it 1 hour, am I not selling myself short? If I'm doing it for 2 hours alone, am I not doing myself great disservice? But if I understand that in him I live, in him I move, and in him I have my being, and that he is closer to me than my next breath. In fact, he's the air that I breathe, and I am the air that he breathes, and we are just so one and intimate and the same. There is no God outside of me. There is no God in heaven I'm looking up to. All right, the Father is in me and I am in the Father, and we are just so interconnected. All right, my he sees through my eyes, he speaks through my mouth, and I speak through his mouth. I see through his eyes, and there is just that one union. He doesn't see apart from me. He doesn't live apart from my life. If I understood that, all right, and I understood that, because I understand what love, or who love is, and that love is him, and that love is him to me. Um all right, it eliminates the burden from prayer, eliminates the burden from worship. All right, I begin to see that worship is when the song ends. All right, worship continues. All right, when the prayer session ends, all right, I'm still praying, because there's just this communication that continues after the meeting. There's just this intimacy that continues after the Sunday, after the Wednesday midweek service. All right, there's just this oneness and communication. When I understand that, all right, I begin to live, I begin to love, I begin to be free with it's not about coming into the house of God. Just understand that I am the house of God forever. You understand? Wherever I go, God goes. It's understanding that. So prayer stops being a burden and begins to be life. All right. So who who do you know who you worship? Do you know who you're praying to? All right.